Let's begin by letting you know that 7-day warning strike by NASU and SANO is ongoing. Hopefully, we'll be bringing you some updates on that with our correspondent when we have that feed. But in the meantime, let's have this conversation on sundry issues, beginning with a call for constitutional amendments, call for restructuring, and all of that, with Mr. G.T. Ogunye, who is a legal practitioner. He joins us right here in the studio. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks to those who are in your Abuja studio, Malpe and Neta.
This call has been ongoing for quite a while, and it dates back at least this particular Fourth Republic. Do you think it's getting anywhere?
All motions without fundamental movement. The amendment to the Constitution and the perpetual call for amendment, if you ask me, born out of the realization very early in 1999 that the Constitution that we had, the 1999 Constitution, was imperfect. It was a military creation. It tells a lie about itself when in the prefatory portion it pompously declares, we the people of Nigeria that will give ourselves this constitution. The constitution was a schedule to a decree 34 of 1999, which was promulgated by the military. But I guess at that time, two things happened. General Abdul Salami, the head of state, was eager to relinquish power, and people were happy about that. And the Nigerian people were also determined to see the back of the military. So in spite of the fact that the job of creating the constitution was imperfect, people just wanted the military to go. And so very early, Nigerians started clamoring for a remaking of the constitution.
If you don't mind me butting in briefly.
Yeah.
I remember that the 1979 Constitution is a product of 1975 committee put up by the Obasanjo government at the time. And this committee was made up of civilians. And that we used that constitution at the time. And then this one is no less. There are those who would argue that it is civilians that the army put together to get this constitution in place, and not that the military sat down to decree and then just changed it. So how significant is that for you?
It's very significant. The process must be democratic and be capable of vesting legitimacy on the constitution. It is not just about drafting a constitution by an assembly of military appointed civilians who in large part will also exhibit the military diktat or ethos. For example, the 1979 Constitution that we are talking about, there was a debate on whether Nigeria should embrace the presidential system of government or whether it should retain the parliamentary system of government. The military had a mindset from their commandist status, from their command structure. They felt that the society ought to be commanded and that, the prime minister model or Westminster model or parliamentary system of government was generating centrifugalism in Nigeria, that you needed a stronger Nigeria, a more united Nigeria. And so you needed to have a presidential system in which the executive head, in which the president will be voted for by the entire country. They thought that that would unite Nigeria. The military often boasts that they are the backbone of the unity of Nigeria and all that. But then there was a debate as to whether we needed to go to embrace the presidential system of government. And the CDC, felt that it should be so, right? And, we had a committee of 50 initially. Chief Obafemi Awolowo rejected and wasn't going to participate. People felt that it was because of personality, because she wrote me Williams, who had abandoned the action group in his hour of need earlier, had been made the chairman and all that. But whatever it was, Chief Obafemi Awolowo demurred. And some of them were saying we didn't need to embark on a presidential system of government. Now, that chicken came home to roost recently when some parliamentarians in Abuja started calling for a parliamentary system of government. Why? Because they claim that this presidential system of government is too expensive, that what we have in most parts are governors who have turned themselves into monarchs and presidents who have turned themselves into despots. And that if the governors or the president were to be going to the parliament to debate with their colleagues policy, budget, and issues with a modest form of government, where you don't have all these presidential razzmatazz, planes, all sort of things and things like that, huge bureaucracy and all, servicing a presidency, symbolically, bloated, even physically, literally and metaphorically, looking at the expanse of land in Abuja, taken by the presidency alone, that you have a smaller form of government and that things will better run. There are people who are saying that now. So the point I'm making is that it is not about just appointing some wise men, some of them who will be lawyers, some of them retired jurists, to draft a constitution.
Okay.
At the tail end, that constitution must be subjected to a referendum or plebiscite, so that people can vote on it clause by clause and say that this is the constitution we've embraced. That is the legitimacy test. And that has not happened. It didn't happen in 1979. It didn't happen in the Bush one of 1989. It didn't happen in 1999.
But what happened in 2005? What happened in 2014?
What happened in 2005, 2014 was that a president who took the presidential system as given, which is part of the thing that had to be debated, appointed some people to come and do a national confab. And worst of all, in 2014, first of all, in 2005, we had the taint of the third-term agenda. Severally denied, but undeniable. So it was a self-serving exercise. In 2014, we had one that the then presiding president couldn't implement, and expecting the person coming after him to implement. And that person came, and I'm talking about President Muhammadu Buhari, and said that, what am I going to do with the report of the confab? It's useless to me. I'm not going to look at it. So that's what happened. Again, the legitimacy test, because you see, it's about first determining that those who are coming to come and debate the Constitution on how to remake it have the legitimacy to do so, are properly elected to do so, not appointed by a self-seeking or self-serving president who has an agenda for them. And two, that when the product then comes out, is subjected to a referendum or plebiscite, so that people can then have the final say and vote on it. That's only when the Constitution truly, in its prefatory portion, can declare that we, the people, have made for ourselves this Constitution. So that's what happened.
Mr. Ogunye, yes? One of the issues a good number of people have also had is the processes that you're talking about. So you're saying that people have to be properly elected to go debate a constitution for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The natural question any one of them is going to ask is, how has the people that are elected into the Senate, the people that are elected into the House of Representatives, and the people that are elected into the Houses of Assembly, how have their elections benefited me? So we'll first of all, as a nation, have to deal with the issue of trust. The people that have been voted for, elected into office over time, they have been, as you said, self-serving. So what's the assurance that the next set of people will be no any different?
There will be a difference. There will be sensitization of the people. I guess that organs of government like National Orientation Agency, civil society groups, everybody, faith organizations will be up and running to sermonize about the importance of the constitutional making process. The people will be well sensitized and mobilized.
Well,
Two, because that election save the possibility of politicians who have their agendas trying to hijack it. Because that election is not about electing politicians to go and be presiding over the budget and party, and electing governors and presidents who will preside over our affairs for 4 years and all that. Because it is for that limited, albeit important agenda of constitutional making, monetization will be reduced. Those who are going there will think that they want to serve, not that they want to go and earn some money. And that will bring the issue of trust on the table, and the process will largely, I predict, be free and fair. But so it is not about sharing money. It is about serving the country. I'm optimistic about that.
I like the optimism, actually. Yeah. You know, but two of my colleagues are waiting. Let's first of all get to Chris Illems at the University of Lagos. He is monitoring the NASU and SANU strike, and he has an update or two for us. Chris, what's new?
Thank you, Ayo. Good morning to you. Good morning to Nigerians. Well, it's day 2 of the Joint Action Congress of NASU and SANU strike. And right here, we are at the warning strike. It's a 7-day warning strike. And right here, we are at the University of Lagos, where they've continued with their actions. We were here yesterday, and of course, they said that by today, they are going to scale up some of the activities, their operations. And by the time I got in here, they were already out on the field, and we had to bring them back because right after this interview, they'll be going back to the field to continue with their operations. Right with me, I have the acting chairman of SANU, Comrade Olubenga, yes, Adinaya, and of course I also have with me the chairman of NASU, Comrade Abiodun. They are both with me today, so they would be sharing with us some of the very interesting things that they have lined up, because they say that until the federal government answer to their call, it won't stop, you know, this action, that it must get to the 7th day. But we want to know how far it has gone so far. Let's begin with you, Comrade Adinaya. Okay, yesterday we were here, and you said you were going to continue this action. What have you done so far? Hasn't the government gotten to you so far?
Well, thank you very much. So far, so good. The government has not actually attended to our demands and our agitations. But from the information we got, we have invited our leaders to a meeting in Abuja tomorrow. Hopefully, at that meeting, if they could reach a consensus and they will have a resolution, our prayer is that the government should do the needful. This strike, we don't actually want it, but we don't have any option. We are government workers. We have a social contract with government, which is as employee, government is our employer. When we work, we should get paid. When we go get paid, we agitate. When we agitate and they don't answer us, then we don't have any option than to go on strike. And the problem with government is that they keep making the same mistake. Why? Because they sign agreements with unions, sign memorandum of understanding with unions, and they don't keep to it. You can imagine an agreement of 2009 that has not been implemented till today. So we are facing the same problem year in, year out. And this one that we are facing presently shouldn't have come up because the government used divide and rule. Instead of paying all the 4 unions 4 months arrears of with salary, they paid only the academic staff, the non-teaching staff, leaving the other 3 unions unpaid. And our leaders at the top have written a protest letter to the chief of staff, to the president of the federation, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. And since then till now, nothing has been done. So we are not slaves. This is a country that belongs to all of us. When we work, we should get paid. When we agitate, they should listen to us. You imagine there were different MOAs from 2002, 2022, 2023 up to now. None have been fulfilled. None have been implemented.
Okay, now you're out carrying some actions. What are those things you have put in place for today and going forward?
So far, so good. We've gone to several faculties. We've gone to several units and several departments. And we found out that our members actually complied 100%. Then there are some places where they are writing exams. We make sure that our members are not involved. We do not say the students should not write their exams because they are also our children. But our members should not be involved in those activities. We have gone around so many places. We are having 100% compliance.
And Comrade Abiodun, what are some of the things that you expect the government to do going forward? What are those things you want to see the government do for you?
Well, thank you very much. The message is very clear, short, and straightforward. Our witness salary, 4 months witness salary should be paid without further delay. That's just a simple message we have for the government. And you can imagine, in 2009, a government had an agreement with the unions. Government had an agreement with the union in 2009. And to date, nothing, no one. And part of the agreement is the revitalization of the university system and other allowances. Those are the things that led to the strike in the year 2022. And we all know, before a trade union could embark on the strike, all the necessary procedures were fulfilled before we embark on the strike. The last weapon of any trade union is strike. And I think that's the language that the government understands.
All right. Well, still here at Unilag, we are hoping that the strike is called off because it is the students that would eventually suffer. Yesterday, we were here and we asked a few of the students, and they said, well, especially those who live in the hostels, that it is going to be hellish for them if there is no water, if there is no power supply, because they need water. They need power supply to cook. And of course, it will be very, very uncomfortable, unconducive for them to do their operations. But we would be here and we'll keep tabs with activities as they continue. And right here, yeah. So right here, we also have some of their movement. I mean, some of their members behind me. And of course, they say they must.
All right there, Chris. Most certainly something to keep our eyes on as things unfold. I'm pretty sure that you will continue to keep us informed. Well, part of the conversation ongoing, definitely, we still have Mr. Ogunye here with me. Markwe?
Well, thank you so much, Ayo. Yes, certainly keeping tabs on what is happening in the universities right there. And excuse me, that's our correspondent, Chris Elems at the University of Lagos. But Mr. Ogunye, it's so good to see you. It's been quite a while on Sunrise Daily, and I know that we've had this discussion with regards to our constitution. Year in, year out, it will seem that this conversation continues to be an ongoing and a recurring one. I'm looking at a book right here, Nigerian Public Discourse, recently published and released by Babatunde Raji Fashola, former governor of Lagos State, talking about general public discourse. And in it, he talks about, is our constitution the fundamental problem? And he writes, this is a legal analysis. He is a senior advocate of Nigeria. I mean, a lawyer very much like yourself. And he says in his scholarly analysis, the issue is not that Nigeria lacks a federal constitution. He says, rather, the question that arises is whether our current constitutional arrangement is sufficiently federal. That's what, I mean, that's the conclusion he reaches. And at the end of the day, well, not at the end of the day, but I think very, very early on in the beginning, he says the summation is that Nigerians want a better life, not a better document. Yes, not a better document. The conviction that the Constitution serves as a universal remedy, a magic bullet with the capacity to address all our tribulations, perhaps warrants a re-evaluation, which has got me thinking about the current situation that we're currently in. I mean, the insecurity, bedeviling the land, a number of other issues that we're all currently dealing with. And I'm wondering, what is the nexus between our Constitution and where we currently are at, the challenges that currently bedevil us? Do you see a nexus there?
There's a nexus. You know, it's very easy for those who are partaking of the distorted form of governance we've had over the years, right from the time of the military, to pontificate or genuinely, offer advice about what Nigerians should truly be looking for: a better society, better government, and downplay the role the constitutional framework will play in all this. For example, I chuckled yesterday when former governor of Osun State and a former minister, a two-time governor and a minister, was quoted to have said, I read Daily Trust, that Nigeria will not survive without a constitutional remaking, without a constitutional remaking, so to speak, or more appropriately, with the presidential system of government. And I was wondering, because he had been a partaker, he was a governor under a presidential system of government, was a commissioner before being a governor, and then he was a minister. So did he see anything wrong with, or didn't he see something wrong with the presidential system of government then and all that? But he is not the subject of debate. So it's easy for partakers to say, look, our problem from our experience is not that we have a very terrible constitution. It's just that we should have a better society, and how we get to that is what we should be talking about. Now, the importance of the Constitution is that every act of government must proceed from the Constitution or a law made under the Constitution. So that's how important the Constitution is. So it's the foundation. Our society is a society that is governed by law. And the king of those laws is the Constitution. It's called Fons et Origo, is the Constitution. And so it is important that we understand that because the Constitution determines a lot of things, including the form of government we should have, including the rights that are enjoyable by the people, including many other things, it is important that that Constitution be properly made. Now, you will see that since 1999, we are on the 5th alteration now. And if I understood the last budget correctly, I think that there's something in there talking about constitutional reforms, so the money to vote for another amendment. So if you've had these amendments, some people may argue that, in other climes too, there are amendments. In the United States, you have many amendments, more than 14 amendments now. So I can't easily recall the last amendment, but they've had many amendments. And so people may argue that, yes, what we should do is to continue to amend, to continue to alter the Constitution, and then somehow, someday we'll get it right. But my contention, my submission is that we started on a wrong footing. So we should go back to remaking that Constitution. And I'll give you an example. Many people don't know this. Many of us that are saying that, you know, this is okay and all that. Look, how did we arrive at 36 states, for example? Majority of these states were made by the military. You say that they consulted with the people. How did we arrive at this number of states? So that governance has become atomized and states cannot function on their own without aid from the federal government. They can't pay salaries. And even when people are saying that state police, local government police have become an imperative, the counter argument by some people is that, oh, state cannot pay. They won't be able to pay them. Why should we create them? Even when it is obvious that security being local will have to be addressed by local policing, not the dummy of community policing. So how do we arrive at those 36 states? And so many questions. Well, we arrived at those 36 states because the military started creating states. Somebody came to government,
yeah, but, you
12
know,
states, just a moment. Somebody came to government, 12 states, and then he made it 19. Another person came to government, and he made it 24, 30, and the last one made it 36. Okay? And so we need to deal with all that. How do we end up having this number of local government that are written into the Constitution that people are crying about, which are receptacles to taking federal allocations? What about the revenue generation and utilization formula that they call allocation formula? How do we move from the state or regions having the chunk of revenue generated from their own regions for their own internal use to having those revenues now concentrated in the hand of the federal government with paltry sums being given to the state and local governments? These are some of the questions that we have to answer. And I'm saying that we need to go back to the basics. Constitution making is an important exercise. And why we are saying that amendment will not just do is that I don't imagine, and I know certainly Makwe we won't imagine, that no matter how altruistic those who are shepherding or superintending the process is, and I mean politicians, they want to amend the way their constituencies, their senatorial districts, and their houses. So if you tell those who are in the National Assembly, we need a unicameral legislature, we don't need a bicameral legislature. So those in the House of Representatives will easily agree, right? And those in the Senate will agree. Or if you are saying that we have to revert to a parliamentary system of government, a president that is within the power of life and death over Nigeria will easily agree and then see himself as a parliamentarian, like a prime minister in Britain, going to the parliament to be rubbing shoulders with his colleagues. Will he agree? Somebody who has become a king, a monarch. These are the issues. So we need a proper constitutional process where those who are in government, the institution they now superintend, will be in the debate. Whether we need this kind of National Assembly, whether we need this kind of States Assembly, whether the governor should not be a parliamentarian in the state, and so on and so forth, and cut down the size of government. If you have a company whose profit is majorly used to service the company, to pay salaries without making much profit, would that company be viable? We're saying that the structure of government in Nigeria are so many and there is poor or little governance. That is also a function of a bad constitution. And I'm saying that we need that constitution very terribly. If politicians do not agree with it,
well,
the truth of the matter is that, and I anchor, the truth of the matter is that when they are in government, they don't see much things that are wrong with the constitution. When they are outside it, they then start advocating. They turn themselves to civil society advocates like us that they mock of perpetually shouting, and they then start seeing what is right with or what is wrong with the status quo and how it has to be changed.
Mr. Ogunye, I really wish that you would read this book, and it'll be very interesting to see what your review of it will be. I mean, in terms of whether or not you agree with certain things, why you disagree, etc. But, you know, I think the point is about, you know, how sometimes these things are held up as impediments to development. And sometimes we, where even creative solutions can be found, what people will see and maybe oftentimes hold on to as a very firm excuse for not doing certain things that they ought to do, it will be the Constitution, when there could be creative solutions around it. So I am just wondering whether right now, where we see our insecurity challenges, where we see, and we've also seen that sometimes, it's not like I said the Constitution hasn't said certain things, we ignore the Constitution. It is performed, or some of the actions that are taken are performed in ignorance or in disobedience of what it is that the Constitution says. We've had occasions where lawyers have had to, call the attention of those who have been involved to say, no, you can't do that. The Constitution which you swore to uphold says this. Before you do this, you have to do that. And we've actually seen in some instances a backtracking. So is this really so much about this Constitution or about the will to really do right by the people of Nigeria?
It's both. But we're discussing the Constitution is both. People in their closets, and I'm not trying to, bring to the fore what I believe people discuss in their closet now. Sometimes wonder whether there's something in us as a people that is so flawed that we don't seem to get many things right. Or whether those who are in government think at all about society. They think, or whether when they get into government, they still hear and see and know that a lot of things have to be done. Now, the will aspect, it is true that we need that will to do what is right, but will is not a neutral phenomenon. The will of a ruling elite is different from the will of the ordinary people. The will of those who are powerful is different from the will of those who are powerless. So it's not just about, let's have a collective will, let's all of us agree, let's have a creed. What's the Nigerian creed? So that we can do things right and all that. Nigeria is a class society. It's a class society, and people, don't often want to discuss class anymore now. All we hear now is about foreign direct investment, let investors come, this is a market, ideology doesn't matter. It does, but we won't talk about ideology today. The point is that the will aspect is important. But what I'm saying is that the Constitution may even help to bring about the requisite will that we need to turn things around. If the proper things are done. And I stay on one, which is one of the issues people are debating now. Security. And how soldiers are being killed all over the place. In Okwama, and then our heart goes to them. Before now in August, in Shiroro, Niger State, senior military officers were ambushed like this and they were killed. In 2022, 34 military officers, while going to Shiroro, were also ambushed and killed. Okay? So the Okwama incident is not an isolated one. Right? So we have a situation now whereby at a supposed peacetime, the military is perpetually deployed for internal security operations in virtually all the states of the country. So we are not talking about the military engaged in internationalist mission in Ukraine or wherever was going on now, for example, or in Liberia. We're talking about our military deployed to maintain security inside Nigeria. And some people have said that, no, let's just leave this done in Okwama. Yes, it's a law enforcement situation. Rule of law must prevail. The military must not go on a revenge mission or on a reprisal mission. If 3 military officers were abducted and 12 or 14, now totaling 17, went in search of them, including the commander of a battalion, a lieutenant colonel, and they were slaughtered. And their guns were taken. So, which police are you going to send there to go and arrest the culprits?
Oh, you know, Mr. Ikobi, you are opening another vista altogether.
We're talking about constitution.
Well, we are really out of time. And you know that, as we said at the beginning, this is an ageless conversation. You must come back for another one so that we can take this on, because it is an important conversation that people need to understand. GT Ogunye is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for your time and for the sacrifice.